जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी शोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन शोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारि यमुना तीरावनचारि राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा सुभद्रा माँ जय सुदर्शन जय गोपाल देव जय गोपाल देव जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय पतित पावन गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद जय श्रीपद जय गुरुदेवा जय जय श्रीपाद जय गुरु महाराज श्रील श्रीपाद की जय जय जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय जय संवेद गौर भक्तवृंद की जय हरे कृष्ण. So we are reading from the Bhagavatam, chapter Canto 6, chapter 14, text number 57 to 61. Chapter is entitled King Chitraketu's Lamentation. Text number 57. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं उदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेरुत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Text number 57. उत्तिष्ठतात इमे शिशवो वयस्या त्वामाह्वयन्ति नृपनन्दनं संविहर्तुम् सुप्तश्चिरं हि अशनया च भवान् परीतो भुङ्क्ष्वसनं पिब शुचो हरन स्वकानाम् उत्तिष्ठतात इमे शिशवो वयस्या त्वामाह्वयन्ति नृपनन्दन संविहर्तुम् सुप्तश्चिरं हि अशनया च भवान् परीतो भुङ्क्ष्वसनं पिब शुचो हरन स्वकानाम्. Translation. My dear son, you have slept a long time. Now please get up. Your playmates are calling you to play. Since you must be very hungry, please get up and suck my breast and dissipate our lamentation. Text number 58. Naham tanujadadrishe hatamangalate mugdha smitam mudita vikshanam Kimbagatosi punaranvayam anyalokam Nito grihanena na shrunomi kalagiraste Naham tanujadadrishe hatamangalate Mugdha smitam mudita vikshanam ananabjam Kim vagatosi punaranvayam anyalokam Nito grihanena na shrunomi kalagiraste. Translation by Prabhupada. My dear son, I am certainly most unfortunate, for I can no longer see your mild smiling. You have closed your eyes forever. I therefore conclude that you have been taken from this planet to another, from which you will not return. My dear son, I can no longer hear your pleasing voice. Text number 59. Shri Shuka Vacha Vilapyantyamritam Putram Iti Chitra Vilapanai Chitraketur Bhrisham Tapto Mukta Kantorurodha Shri Shuka Vacha Vilapayantya Putram Iti Chitra Vilapanai Chitraketur Bhrisham Tapto Mukta Kantorurodha. Translation. Shri Sukadev Goswami continued. Accompanied by his wife, he was thus lamenting for a dead son. King Chitraketu began crying loudly with an open mouth, being greatly aggrieved. Text number 60. Tayorvilapatho sarve dampatyostadanuvratah rurudhusma nara narya sarvam asida chetanam. Tayorvilapatho sarve dampatyostadanuvratah rurudhusma nara narya Naryah Sarvam Asida Chetanam. Translation. As the king and queen lamented, All their male and female followers joined them in crying. Because of the sudden accident, all the citizens of the kingdom were almost unconscious. Text number 61. एवं कश्मलम् आपन्नं नष्टसंज्ञामनायकम् ज्ञात्वाङ्गिरा नाम ऋषिर् आजगाम स नारद एवं कश्मलमापन्नं नष्टसंज्ञम् अनायकम् ज्ञात्वाङ्गिरा नाम ऋषिर् आजगाम स नारदः. Translation, purport by Prabhupada. When the great sage Angira understood that the king was almost dead in an ocean of lamentation, he went there with Narad Rishi. Thus ends Bhaktivedanta purport of the 6th canto, 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled King Chitraketu's Lamentation. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Swaruptamodara Swaminiti Namine Nama Sadbhaktamanaye Manipurudbhavaya Cha Prabhupada Satvani Prachara Niratayate Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Dvancha Kalpatarurvesha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Sankirtanam Jasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamana Tam Namami Harim Param Sansara Sagare Magnam Dinam Mam Karunanide Karmagrahya Grihitangam Mamuddhara Bhavarnavad Srimad Bhagavatam Pratyaksha Krishna Evahi Svikritosi Mayanata Mukhyartham Bhavasagara. So we are continuing our Bhagavatam Seva, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And we are coming to the concluding verses of this chapter, which is entitled King Chitraketu's Lamentation. So as you know, Vritrasura has been killed by Indradev, the king of heaven, and our Parikshit Maharaj is inquiring from Sukadev Goswami, how is it possible, that this person who is a demon, from birth, he has become a devotee. So Sukadev Goswami is telling, in the past life, this person, he was this king, King Chitraketu, and by the association of the saintly people, Narad Muni and Angira Rishi, he was able to become a pure devotee, but somehow he was cursed by Mother Parvati, and because of this curse, he has appeared in this form of a demon, Vritrasura. So that is why, although he is in a demon's body, because in the previous life he was a nice devotee of the Lord. So Krishna has given him this opportunity somehow to remember this past life, and he is able to thus go back home, back to God. So in this chapter, we are talking about how King Chitraketu, he's been blessed by these two sages, Angira Rishi and Narad Muni, to get one son. So although he has so many queens, thousands of queens, and a huge vast kingdom, but still, the king was lamenting that he had no heir. I don't have a son to carry on my parampara, my generation. So that was his lament. And then Angira Muni and Narad Rishi, somehow, saintly people, they come, and by the grace, when Angira Muni was inquiring, how are you? He was inquiring about the king's welfare. Then the king is saying that, I don't have a son. So you people, you saintly people, you are Mahatmas, you are Bhagavatas, you please bless me so that I can have a son. So Angira Rishi is saying, they are Trikaladarshis, they can see the future also. So they're saying, son, king, you are not meant to have a son, but since you are lamenting so much and you're requesting so much, I will, with my own power, I will grant you, by the grace of the Lord, I will grant you a son. But this son will cause you not only happiness, jubilation, but it will also cause you intense lamentation. So the jubilation part we have seen, now we are coming to the lamenting part. So the son has been poisoned by these other envious queens, and because of this, the queen is crying. A mother is crying for a child, actually. So this is something very natural, actually. You can see in Vrindavan, even the monkeys, they cry. I don't know if you have seen. Sometimes, the child is dead, but the mother monkey, she will always hold that child, very close to her breast, and she will not let it go, even though it is a dead body. And for so many days, the mother laments, actually, doesn't eat properly, and other monkeys have to come and force. So this thing, this instinct, this is a very natural thing. Because of this bodily concept of life, because of a deep rooted attachment for all these material things, and because mostly we lack this knowledge, this proper knowledge of self realization, spiritual knowledge. I was going through this lamentation and thing in the Bhagavatam, and it is being mentioned in the Mahabharata, actually. The Mahabharata, in the Udyog Parva, in the 43rd chapter, there are 5 kinds of ignorance described. 5 types of ignorance. The first one is accepting the body to be the self. The second one is making material sense gratification as one's standard of enjoyment. If I'm going to enjoy, I will enjoy only materially. They don't even think about the spiritual enjoyment, the varieties. So first thing, they accept the material body to be the self. They think the self, this body is actually the self. They don't think that this body is simply a covering for the self. Second thing, because of this bodily concept, they think that all enjoyment has to come through the material body, means the standard is material enjoyment. And the third thing is, because this body is perishable, so immediately they become anxious due to material identification. Accepting the body and then using the body or the material as the standard of enjoyment, material standard of enjoyment, sense gratification. And then third thing, because of this material identification, they become very anxious. And then the fourth thing is lamentation. See, lamentation, this like King Chitraketu is lamenting here, this is also due to ignorance, actually. Lamenting is a very typical sign of ignorance. And then finally, lastly, it is said, thinking that there is anything beyond the absolute truth. So these 5 kinds of ignorances are there. And this lamenting is a very common thing, particularly in Kali Yuga, because Kalau Shudra Sambhava, it is said. Shudra Sambhava means the Shudras, or people who are not enlightened in the Vedic process, people who have no knowledge of these higher values of life, who don't understand what is self-realization, what is spiritual life, these people, they always lament. That is very typical. Sochati, Kankshati, they're always lamenting, or they are hankering for something that they don't get. These 2 things, typical. It's very typical. Everywhere in the material world, you will see this is a very common symptom. Arjuna, Krishna was advising Arjuna before the battle. He's saying, Asochanan Vasosaswam Pragyavadamsha Bhasas Gatasuna Gatasumsha Nanusochanti Pandit. Speaking like a very learned person. This, that, this, very elevated talks. But you're lamenting. Nanusochanti Pandita. Pandita, really learned person, somebody who's not ignorant, who has knowledge, the wise person, he will neither lament for the living nor for the dead. So why are you lamenting? Why should you lament? You just do your duty. So you see, this lamentation itself is because of ignorance. And here, specifically, the ignorance is because they have this bodily conception of life. Actually, when somebody understands his spiritual identity and one is able to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Spiritual Person, one becomes actually happy because this is a natural thing, natural function. This is what we are meant to do. But when one forgets this because of ignorance or, so many factors, when one starts to search for happiness within this matter, then one must certainly lament for all these bodily relationships. Because bodily relationships, whether you like it or not, they are going to end. At one point in time, there is going to be separation. And when there is separation, depending on the degree of attachment you have to that relationship, one feels immense grief. So lamenting is just you're outpouring your grief. This unhappiness you have, you just outpour. And you see how the mother is crying. She's saying, my dear son, please wake up. Please drink milk. You must be very hungry. Come, let us play. All your friends are waiting for you. And then she's going on, I'm certainly most unfortunate. I cannot see you smiling. You have closed your eyes forever. And then she's again lamenting that, maybe I've gone to some other planet. I know you will not come back. I can't even hear your pleasing voice. My dear son, please somehow, please wake up. Don't leave me like this. And the queen, naturally, the mother is more affectionate to the son because she's holding on to the son in a womb, and she's the one who feeds the child and takes care of him very intimately. The father is generally like the donor, he just implants, and the father also has attachment, but not like a mother's attachment. The mother's attachment is much, much more. But Chitraketu, he's seeing his wife lamenting so loudly, and he also, with the open mouth, saying, Mukta Kanta. Kanta means the throat, Kanta, this thing. Mukta. Mukta means completely open, liberated mouth, open mouth is Rurodaha. He's crying, very loudly. He is also crying. So the king is crying, the queen is crying, all the palace people are crying, and this grief has extended. Practically, the whole kingdom is crying. All the ladies, all the people, everybody, the men, everybody are crying. And so much crying that, they become like unconscious or dead in an ocean of lamentation. You see, the extent of grief is so intense. So this lamenting has always been a part of human life. Krishna is saying very particularly, he's saying this is dukkalayam ashasvata. Dukkha means, there is only suffering and misery here. If you think you get some happiness, then immediately Krishna is removing that notion, ashashvat. This is not shashvat, Baba, this will not last. Even if you're getting some little, so-called happiness, this happiness will not last. So people, he's saying, what is that? Dukkalem ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. People who are Mahatmas, who are Bhagavatas, who are realized souls, they don't want to apnuvanti. They don't want to come to this material world. They don't want to stay here. This is their thinking process. No apnuvanti. They don't want to come back here, or they don't want to stay here. Samsiddhim paramam gata. They want to go to the topmost place where this kind of lamentation, all these undesirable things that we have in this material world, birth, death, old age, disease, so many causes for lamentation, all these things where we will not get that kind of paramam gata, they want to go to that topmost place, some siddhi, by achieving perfection of the human form of life. Guru Maharaj used to say, the purpose of a BI is to achieve the distinction of the human form of life. The distinction, samsiddhi, complete siddhi, complete perfection. And that samsiddhi, this complete perfection, is actually how to become a nice devotee of the Lord. So this is a proper conclusion for this thing, that anybody who becomes, like in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, the concluding verses, Krishna is saying, Brahmabhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhateva. So somebody actually achieves mad bhakti, Krishna bhakti, somebody achieves the devotional service of the Lord, then he becomes Brahmabhuta prasannatma. Prasanna. He's always happy. And the symptom is that na sochati, he doesn't lament, na kankshati, he doesn't hanker. No hankering, no lamentation. Why? Because, there is no enemy. If there is some enemy, some kind of problem, then, there will be lament. But there is no enemy, then sama sarveshu bhuteshu. He sees everybody on the equal platform. Whether it is sun, animal, any living entity, he sees on the same platform. So that way, he is understanding everything is a part and parcel of the Lord. He doesn't develop this kind of attachment to all these temporary things. So this is the beginning actually of transcendental activities. See, when we read all these stories in the Bhagavatam, it seems like ordinary mundane thing. Why is such a king, right? He is a king. He's a king of the land. The king of the land means he is the father of all the subjects within the land. Naturally, he must have seen so many families where there are no children, or he must have seen family where there were one or two children and both of these children were killed. All these things, the king must have a such vast experience because he is practically the ruler of the entire land. Directly or indirectly, he must have known these things, even among his closest relatives. But such a king with such vast experience, how could he lament, like this? Sometimes it doesn't make sense. And then, the other side of the thing is, here are these saintly people, right? Narad Muni and Angira Rishi. They are liberated spacemen. Liberated means they can travel anywhere within this universe. Narad Muni, even he goes to Vaikuntha and he meets Lord Narayan. Liberated personalities. They understand that, this person is lamenting, and then they give him a cause for lamenting even more by providing him a son who will die very soon. So on one side, this is very wonderful that such a king with vast experience can sit and cry like that. But okay, we can give some concession that saying that this is his son, the only son. So naturally, a father has to have some attachment for his son. This is understandable. But this side, you see the sages here, who instead of relieving these people from their lamentation, they are adding to the lamentation by giving them a son who will die immediately. So, when people think, are the saintly persons really blessing us with something, or they are going to add to our problems? This thought comes in the mind. No, I remember when, we were in IIT Kharagpur, and, the students there, they were saying, just following the four basic principles, actually, no meat eating, no illicit relationship, no gambling, no intoxication. These four things, even these four things, basic things which promote somebody from an animal life, from being a normal animal life, eating, sleeping like that, to a human platform. And then from human platform, you have to transcend, you have to go beyond and achieve the spiritual platform, where you consider, I'm soul, I'm part and parcel of the Lord. But even to give up these four things, those boys were lamenting. Not all of them, some of them. They're saying, Prabhuji, we, before we didn't worry so much that, we could go anywhere, we could eat anything. We didn't care. We didn't care much about these things, the world and what and all is happening around. We were kind of carefree and happy. But now, wherever we go, we have to think twice. Whenever we eat anything, we have to think twice, whether there is eggs in that, whether there is some, non-veg items in that. So many things we have to think. And we think, this is much more difficult than that. This earlier stage, carefree life, this is much more difficult. They were lamenting like that. We cannot do even normal things very freely. They were lamenting like that. And then I had to explain to them, Baba, it's okay. You have to pay a price. Material world means you have to pay some price. And if you're paying the price for whatever thing, you see what is waiting at the end. See, materially, we work so hard, we get a degree. None of this is guaranteed, right? You just imagine a child is born, they put through the child to, the schooling process. That even getting a seat and, raising up a child in a proper educational environment is very difficult. The mother and father and the kid have to undergo so much tortures, not to exclude the teachers and other people who are involved. And there is no guarantee that the child will pass out. And once a child comes out from the school, there is no guarantee that the child will get a job. I have so many people crying now, specifically in this coronavirus time. There are so many people without jobs, mechanical engineers, PhDs, so many. So there's no guarantee somebody will get a job. And after that, there is no guarantee they will get married, have a very happy family, or, they will have this house with a white picket fence and, children and everything happy ever after. There is no guarantee. But still, everybody undergoes so much difficulties, lamenting and, struggling simply to achieve all these perishable goals. But one thing is coming at the end of it all. There is death is going to come, which is very sure. And they don't know how to be prepared for that. Not only they lament, they make everybody lament, at that particular point, this ending point, which is very sure. So one becomes little intelligent, this is the thing. If one wants to overcome this ignorance, okay, you have a material body, you have to do something to sustain it. So I'm not saying don't go study. I'm not saying don't go endeavor to get a job. I'm not saying, don't try to get married and settle down. These are not the things. But you should also understand when my final time comes, what is going to happen in the next life. One should also be prepared for that. Am I going to come and repeat the same thing over and over ad nauseum? We call that ad nauseum, Are you going to come and repeat the same thing again and again, going to school, again, working hard to get a job, slaving at the job, getting married, settle down, and then just die, and then again, repeating the same story again and again. Intelligence, this is the thing. Human form is being blessed with intelligence. So as soon as a person is intelligence, means he should live up to that standard. I remember always Guru Maharaj used to tell me, you're an educated person, Madan. He used to say, you're an educated person, means you are supposed to behave like an educated person. And BI especially meant for the intellectuals, very thoughtful, intellectual people. So why, as intellectual people, we should land ourselves in a situation where there is so much lamentation? So much lamentation that we become dead with grief. Why should one put oneself in such a kind of situation? It doesn't make sense. If you're intelligent, why should you land up in that kind of problem? Simply lamenting, one thing after another, one thing after another. So this is the nature. The nature of the living entity is anandamayo abhyasat. The Lord is always in a very ananda, very happy, blissful frame of mind. You see, Krishna is always smiling. And when somebody comes into spiritual life, when somebody becomes a nice devotee of the Lord, then, you see that person is also always very happy. He may not be putting on a big smiling face, showing out all his thing, but at least, internally that person is very happy, very content, and very satisfied. So this is a proper use of human form of intelligence. And why the sages are putting our Chitraketu Maharaj into this kind of lamentation is simply to make him understand, the full force of this Maya or this illusory energy, material energy. See, sometimes, it requires a thorn, thorn. It requires a thorn to pull out another thorn. It may be painful. It may be very, very painful. But if you are just going to recite scriptures, Shastra, sometimes people may not, it may not strike into their mind so much. They will just hear and, very conveniently forget about that. But Shastra, when you use some kind of weapon like this, grief is a terrible weapon actually. When they go to that extreme end, when you use a weapon like that and people really get hurt, then, some kind of knowledge comes. Some kind of knowledge comes. Certain things I wanted to say, but because it is my own story, I don't know how to go about it. But you please forgive me because it is diverting from the Bhagavatam, where we're talking about Mahabhagavatas. But this is a personal experience. I'll try to conclude with this, just a few minutes. See, I was doing my veterinary degree, and every year, I used to go to Guruvayur to offer Tulabharam to the deities there. They place a person in what do you call that? Tula means that balance, right? Big balance. You make the person sit on one side, and the other side they offer something, whatever the person's capacity is. So in my case, we were offering green coconuts, tender green coconuts to the Lord Guruvayurappan, and this was a regular practice. So my father's side, all of them were very intelligent, but most of them they had this mental problem. They were very depressed. So I remember during the holidays, every year, annually, I used to go. So during one of the holidays, I was there in the house, and the whole house was a mess because these people are all depressed. They're taking so much antidepressants and all that, and everybody is lying down in one corner. The place was a mess. So I was working from morning till evening, cleaning up the whole place. And then, at the end of the day, after taking a bath, I was dead tired. It was almost like 5, 6 o'clock. I started making all these chapatis, rotis for consuming. I made like 20 rotis. And then after that, I came back and, அம்மா நில்லுங்க நான் வரேன் ஒரு 10 நிமிஷம் நில்லுங்க கீழே இருங்க நான் வரேன் வச்சுட்டு போங்க அங்க so I made all these rotis and then I just went out to get something, some few vegetables. The current had gone. It's kind of a village. The whole thing was dark. Somehow I managed to come back by 7 o'clock, and I'm coming and seeing there was not even one bread left. Right? There was not even one chapati left. The whole place was dark. I'm dead tired. Now we cannot go outside to any hotel or something because everything is closed. I'm completely exhausted. Mentally, emotionally, completely exhausted. And at that time, I don't know, when the current went out, I really felt that full force of what kind of misery actually this material world could offer. I was young at that time, not so old and experienced, but whatever little thing I had, I just completely broke down. I was sitting there and like I remember I was crying for 1 solid hour, and I was praying, my Lord, see, I'm coming, I'm giving you all these wonderful coconuts. I don't know if you're drinking or not, but you can't put me through this. Someone pick me up from this. I don't want to suffer like this. I can't take this anymore. I remember, you need some kind of button somewhere to push. When you push the right buttons, people they come out of that thing. This mic influence, they come out. So in Chitraketu's case, this kind of thing was happening. These sages, they were very compassionate actually. They could have let him go on like this, right? Continue the thing. But because of their mercy, although sometimes it is a very painful process, like Prabhupada used to say, you have a boil, it is one thing to, pat it nicely and foo blow on it. This is one process, and the person will be very happy. Oh, somebody is comforting me. But, the good doctors, they will come and they'll open it. Although it is painful, they squeeze out all the pus outside, very, very painful. And then they apply medicine, bandage it once and forever. Permanently cured. So those who are very merciful, right, they do these things. Those who are really merciful, they do these things. So the guru's job, the spiritual master, the devotee's job is not an easy thing. You can't go tell people, sometimes you give them sane advice, they don't want to accept it. Upadesho hi murkanam prakopayana shantaye. You give them good advice, immediately they become, very agitated. They become very angry upon it. Because they're murka, they're ignorant. So sometimes you have to put these people through this kind of thing so that they can overcome this grief, they can overcome the situation, this illusory attachments, and they can permanently find a way out of this. So this is actually the blessings of these saintly people. So one has to be very, very fortunate, extremely fortunate to be, having even a darshan of a sadhu. To what to speak about getting actual instructions from him, an opportunity to serve such wonderful devotees, this is very, very rare. So one should make best use of this opportunity with full consciousness, full sincerity. If one is doing it, you will see, like because of the blessings of Narad Muni and Angira Rishi, he became a very nice devotee, Chitraketu. And he was able to give up this lamentation, all these bodily things. So like that, if we are sincerely, we take up this process, you don't have to be, you don't need a thorn to remove that thorn. If you're a little intelligent, you can use the Shastras, the words of these scriptures, and one can elevate himself from this position, from this ignorance, this position of ignorance, one can come to this higher stage, this distinctions. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna, for your patient listening. Any questions, suggestions, or comments are welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the good class. Yeah, I do have a question. So in verse 60, it is said that all his followers are also lamenting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so will you make some comment on that? Because if we are in a position, or if we are the owner of the house, or if we are in management, or if somehow or the other, like if we are in influential position, then if we ourselves are lamenting, then all our followers, all our dependents will also face the same situation. So how
Yeah,
is it?
that is why. Yeah, that is why the leaders have to be very, very careful. You see, when Prabhupada used to give lectures, he never showed any of these emotions. Guru Maharaj also, I've never seen him cry except that video, the last Guru Maharaj had recorded, and he was actually saying that Prabhupada saved me. And that time Guru Maharaj became emotional. Otherwise, I've always seen Guru Maharaj with a very happy face. Always bright. I always remember Guru Maharaj like that. I always remember Prabhupada also like that. Prabhupada was very grave, because he was an elderly person. His face was very grave, very serious. But Prabhupada used to say, internally, I'm always in the greatest ecstasy. And if at all they had any grief or lamentation, the lamentation was that, the disciples or their followers or the devotee, they couldn't make a conditioned soul into, into a devotee of the Lord. That was the lamentation. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, once one of his sannyas disciples, actually, one lady, one Mataji, she was married to that person. So she came and she literally, from the mud, she dragged this person away, that sannyasi. And Bhaktisiddhanta was lamenting like anything. I couldn't save that disciple of me. So the thing is, when specifically when you're a leader, it becomes, very, very, very important that, one shows the positive side of spiritual life. If there is some lamenting that we have not achieved, the Lord's favor or something like that, even that, the leaders, they keep it to a minimum. They don't reveal these things outside. They don't show it because common people will think, they're just putting on a show, or they will not understand the mood. What is the mood of the person. Madhavendra Puri's example is there during, his final days. He was lamenting actually. And, one of his disciples, The other one was Ishwar Puri. Ishwar Puri was a guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and there was another one disciple. There's what is his name? Ramchandra thing. So this other disciple, Ramchandra Puri, I think, this other disciple, he was criticizing because Madhavendra Puri was lamenting. Oh Mathura Natha, oh Lord Krishna, the Lord of Mathura. I just couldn't remember you. I couldn't serve you. I couldn't be like that. He was lamenting like that. And this disciple, he had the audacity to criticize his own guru and saying, "Why are you lamenting like this?" But the other disciple, Ishwar Puri, he was serving his Guru Maharaj very nicely. He was cleaning up the body and rendering very nice service, and he got unlimited blessings because he understood the mood of the Guru. See, the Guru is not expecting these external things. I remember this. We had this conversation with one of our god brothers, a Satyaraj Prabhu, who's a veterinarian. So he went to Subhak Maharaj and he was asking, Maharaj, what is it exactly that you want from me? See, I'm like this. I'm a grasta. I'm staying outside, and I belong to some other spiritual master. But you have been the one who's guiding me and giving me all this kind of service. So you please tell me, what should be, what will I do to make you happy? And Maharaj said, I want you to be fully Krishna conscious. I want you to be fully Krishna conscious. Just 1 second. Somebody is knocking on the door. 1 second. வச்சிட்டு போங்கம்மா வச்சிட்டு போங்க நீங்க ஏன் நின்று தட்டிட்டு இருக்கீங்க கிளாஸ்ல இருக்கேன் விட்டு போங்க யா Yeah, am I audible? Haribol?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So you see, the thing is, they want you to be simply Krishna conscious. And for that, if they cry, they laugh, they do anything, ultimately they want to bring you to that. So, from our perspective, because we are very immature, because we are very, how do you say, we are very ignorant, we judge things from our standard. So we think when they are lamenting like us, for something material. When they're hankering for something, we think they're hankering for something material like us. They want a post, they want some name, they want some fame. It's not like that. It's not like that. So rather than judge, the leaders are doing like this, the leaders are doing like that, you should appreciate that person has somehow, he has stuck to his Krishna conscious for so many years. Prabhupada used to say, you be amazed that somebody is staying in Krishna conscious. Don't be amazed that people are leaving. So many people are giving up and going. But if somebody is still sticking to Krishna conscious, you appreciate that. The moon, it is giving so much light, right? Wonderful moonlight. And there are some spots on the moon sometimes, you see. But rather than appreciating that beautiful light and, the cooling rays of the moon, if you're going to find fault and say, oh, there are so much black spots on the moon, you're losing out on the best part of the moon, right? It's the same way. Any devotee, even very third class devotee, very low grade devotee who is a Kanishta Adhikari, even that person, because he has accepted the Supreme Personality and he has surrendered to him, that person, he should be given all respect. And you should try to see the positive things in that. This is the thing, this negativity, this is very easy. We are all so much, because this material world is designed like that. You can see negative things everywhere. But to remain positive and to elevate those who are in that kind of sphere to the positive platform, you see how difficult that is. So you should, on some level, you should be able to appreciate that these leaders are doing that. You also remember when they are fighting, right? When the war is happening, these people who are out in the front, the leaders, they are the ones who are getting all the first hits. They're trying to protect you who you are standing behind. You remember this also. So one should always feel very grateful to these people. No matter however angle you look at it, you have to be very grateful to these people, and not judge them like that. Even if they fall down, because you see, in the army, these people are the ones to get shot at first. Even if they fall down, you should be compassionate, because you should understand that this person has done so much for the sake of the Lord. And the Lord has his way, how he will pick up that person. There are so many things, but I will talk to you personally about that, because this is a general forum. I don't want to say. There are so many examples of sannyasis and other things like that. But the main point one should understand is that, don't try to judge people who are above you. Don't do that, because we are not qualified to do that, for one thing. And the other thing is that either way around, because they are doing that ultimately for the satisfaction of their guru, even if there are some mistakes in that, Krishna and Guru will correct it. You can be rest assured, these things will be set right. So you carry on your devotional process so that you don't offend them and you don't offend the people who are with you. So, and this cooperative spirit is something very nice. You cooperate. If you don't like, to do a particular service or something, you tell them very nicely, Prabhuji, I cannot do this like this. Even your guru is reasonable. Guru is not going to force you to do something that you don't want to do, or the leader is not going to force you to do something you cannot do. Krishna also is not going to give you so much grief that you cannot bear it. Every test is actually to make you stronger. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Actually, makes you stronger. So you become more and more strong in devotional service, and then one day you will become pakka. You can deal with everything. So don't worry. Just pray very sincerely for the blessings of Guru Maharaj, and pray for the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas. Then you will be guided. Guru Maharaj used to say, the Paramatma will guide you. He will give you intelligence. The Lord will guide you. You don't have to worry. There is no need for grief or lamentation or even second thoughts on this. This process will take you all the way to perfection. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Guruji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Balramji is having a question. Balramji, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Balram Prabhu.
Yeah, very nice lecture. I have few questions, but before that, maybe I will just say one line about our Sanatan Prabhu's question. He asked about the lamentation of the relatives or the friends. So when we think a little bit deeper, our body is not limited to ourselves, because the material universe is spreading. The whole universe is connected. So that means anything we think that any attachment with the body that spreads the whole universe. So that means if we are lamenting, then because of this false identification, this same thought spreads all over the universe. So that means, although they are relatives, they are not lamenting in the same intensity like us. The intensity goes down, but still because of this identification of the body, the lamentation continues. So that means the body is not limited to our, let's say, the physical gross body. It spreads the whole universe. Okay, so I have in the same way, detachment also can be considered. I have two questions. One question is about this accelerating the process of whatever the process of lamentation, or the bringing the devotees towards the God. So here, Angira Rishi, Angira Muni, he accelerated the pain of Chitraketu Maharaj. So this is basically, I thought one example, let's say if some stone is falling from the hill, then on the way, if one stops, then he will hurt himself until it reaches to the bottom, to the hill. Then only one can take back. Otherwise, in the middle, if one stops, then the stone will come, he will also come down. Isn't
that is nice. That is a nice. You are giving it a push so that it will go to the restful, peaceful state. That is nice. You are a physics professor, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Here, the question is how Angirya Rishi, he granted a son to the Chitraketu Maharaj.
Yeah.
What is the process? When we think only God can allow, but how the rishis, they can also allow.
See, they are human beings, there is no doubt, but they are empowered human beings. They are not ordinary human beings, right? So by their blessings, this is possible. Sometimes even otherwise, olden days, the kings, they are not able to conceive a child. They go to some rishis and they request the rishis that because I'm impotent like that, you please, you can sire a child. And that child is accepted as a king. It is possible. Mahabharat, the story, right? Vyasdev came. Dhritarashtra, Pandu and Vidura, they are all children of Vyasdev actually, not their original fathers. You got this thing. But even otherwise, this conception, this thing, they can do that, because they are powerful. They are powerful. We say Sakshat Haritvena, as good as God. Directly the Supreme Personality. Samasta Shastra, in all the scriptures it is said. So this is actually Krishna's plan and Krishna empowers him. Yes, you can grant him a son. All this intelligence, knowledge, whatever the process is required, it is sanctioned by the Lord actually. Otherwise we cannot do. Nobody can do anything. Even a blade of grass will not move, unless Krishna is sanctioning it. Ultimately, we must understand that. So these people were empowered by the Lord. Yes, he is ready to become a nice devotee. Now you go ahead, you do this. That's what happened.
Okay, Prabhuji. And I have another question.
Yeah.
Another question about the ignorances that you said. There are five different types. So these are actually ignorance or the result of ignorance?
It is mentioned very specifically that this is itself ignorance. That's what I was thinking. See, because you're ignorant, you lament, right? But it is mentioned lamentation is ignorance. In the Mahabharata, it is mentioned like that. And it is further said that, somebody who take up the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then all these 5 kinds of ignorance will go away. Because whatever we see is ultimately, it is an exhibition of the Supreme Lord's energy, right? Everything is a manifestation of Krishna. But when we are ignorant of that, we lament and all these things happen actually.
Okay. Yes, Prabhu. So the 5th point is my question. 5th point, you said thinking beyond anything.
That there is anything beyond absolute truth.
Absolute truth. How this is, how can at the first place one think that something is beyond absolute truth? Because we assume that that's absolute. And the second point is how this is an ignorance.
No, thinking that there is anything beyond the absolute truth. Absolute truth means the source of all material and spiritual things. So whatever we see with an experience, it is coming from the absolute truth. But if you're thinking there is something other than the absolute truth, absolute means that is the last stage, right? There is nothing equal to it or beyond it. So if you're thinking there must be something beyond it or something other than it, then you are putting the absolute truth on a relative platform. You're comparing it with something else. So that is due to ignorance. You got my point?
But how it is ignorance? Yeah, that's what question.
See, absolute means that is the last word, right? There is nothing beyond that. But still people think that there could be something beyond the absolute truth. Then, it is ignorance actually. It's a kind of ignorance.
Their understanding of absolute is not correct. So
the understanding of thing
it's
is
not correct. But my point is I don't understand how it is ignorance.
See, okay. What do you mean by absolute? How would you define absolute?
Yeah, that is nothing beyond it.
Yeah, there is nothing equal to that. There is nothing beyond that. Absolute is absolute. So suppose you think there is something which is giving some competition or something beyond the absolute, then it doesn't make sense, right? You're behaving ignorantly. This is the point I'm trying to say. When you say absolute temperature, that is one particular thing, right? There is nothing beyond, plus or minus. These are different temperatures, but it is not absolute. But you think there is something comparable to that absolute temperature on some level. This shows that you are ignorant, because that very meaning of that word absolute doesn't make sense otherwise. I don't understand why you're confused.
Yeah, because ignorance means it causes something.
Lack of knowledge.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we'll discuss some other time. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. No,
So the main point here is how this becomes ignorance. So ignorance leads to different effects. But thinking about this, something is beyond absolute, how
Yeah.
that leads to same what ignorance leads.
No. This is one kind of ignorance. See, this Mahabharata, it is mentioned there are 5 kinds of ignorance. And thinking that there is something beyond the absolute truth is one kind of ignorance. There are different kinds. The 5 main kinds of ignorances is this. And one of this ignorance is that you can think that, there is something above the absolute. If you think like that, that is one kind of ignorance. That's all.
Mm.
How one can think, people do think. How we can think, thinking is a process. That's all. People think in so many ways. They think, okay, there may be something like beyond the absolute truth. When you tell that Krishna is the final word, Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the summum bonum of all the energies, they think, oh, there may be somebody who is, superior to Krishna. See, the scientists, they ask this question. They ask, Prabhupada, how did the universe come about? And Prabhupada said everything came from Krishna. So then the next question, where did Krishna come from? Now, how will you reply to that?
Interesting question.
Because you see, we have this conception, everything is created, right? You have a date of birth, I have a date of birth, we have an expiry date, everything in the material world. So we have no conception of the spiritual things which are eternal, no beginning, no end. We don't have. So naturally, they asked this question. And you know what Prabhupada replied? Like, Prabhupada was criticizing this chunk theory, right? There was a big
Prabhuji,
chunk.
The big set
Yeah.
is consisting of all small sets. So
Yeah.
the big set is automatically created at the beginning. So
Yeah. No, see, the Prabhupada was criticizing this Big Bang theory, and he was saying, you say the chunk was there, and the chunk burst, and all these universes came. So where did the chunk come from? And they couldn't reply. So Prabhupada said this chunk has come from Krishna. So then the scientists asked, okay, where did Krishna come from? And then Prabhupada said, Krishna came from Krishna. If you prove that Krishna came from something else, then I will accept defeat.
yes, Prabhu.
You understand the argument?
Yes.
If you can prove that Krishna has come from something else, then I will accept, yes, your knowledge is right. But I'm saying Krishna is the ultimate thing. That is, Krishna is coming from Krishna. That's it.
Mhm.
This is how he said. Some things they may not sound very logical, but this is how it is. That's why it is called inconceivable. Achintya vastu. We cannot argue about that. We just accept it because we cannot even check out how these things have come about. You and I, we don't have that much experience or that much power to check out these things, right? So we just accept the Vedic truths. At least I believe that, Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, people, saintly people, they wouldn't cheat me. They wouldn't cook up stories to cheat me. This much I have faith. So I accept, yes, they're saying the Vedas are pakka, then, there must be something wrong with my understanding. So I will make my knowledge pakka. Among all the quantum possibilities, right? This possibility is the one that seems absolutely right to me. This is the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna.
So thank you, Prabhuji. And there is a question by Neil Madhav Prabhuji. It's already 9:03, but anyway, we will take it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
Neil Madhav Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Prabhuji.
Yeah, this state of lamentation actually, we also experience on daily basis, or at least once in a week we experience, or once in a month. Generally we experience on every day, but we take it as normal. But still we experience sometimes very big chunks of lamentation. So, my question is like this experience we have, but we don't know how to proceed from there. Again, we do the same mistake, same thing, and we again get the same chunk of lamentation in different covers. But how to proceed from that state of lamentation? Like it's very common experience. Actually, every day we feel that.
No,
in
I
Hyderabad.
understand. I understand. I perfectly understand because I am also lamenting now. I'm missing all of you here. I'm sitting all alone and I'm